Four Knights of the Apocalypse chapter 216 is officially out, and this might go down as one of, if not the best chapters of the series in the year. Because not only do we get some closure on, like, Gawain's whole origin and everything in this chapter, we also get to learn a very crucial way to take down the power of chaos, and a surprise reveal of a character at the end of this chapter that confirms, but also kind of gives us new theories for what could happen for the possibility of the future when it comes to the series, because this chapter has a lot to really dig into, especially as we go towards the end of it. But before we jump into things, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy what I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Also, if you want to see a bit more of me, go and check out my manga podcast, Shonen Pulse, on the Panel Focus YouTube channel, where me, Nox, Yatogami, and Papa Traffic talk about 10 different manga from 3 different magazines. It's a lot of fun. I think you guys would really enjoy it. We get really deep into these discussions and dive into each of these chapters. I think you guys will love to join the conversation. And I also have a second channel for myself called GW Comics, where I talk about comic books. Right now it's going to be DC focused for the most part, but I got some other stuff in the wing that I plan to do right now. That's a passion project of mine that's almost at 1,000 subscribers, so if you have the time, go and check it out, subscribe, and give it some support, because it is definitely something I would love to do alongside these videos as well, back and forth. Links to this and the podcast will be in the description down below and in the title card. But with all that out of the way, let's jump right into this chapter. Chapter 216 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled A Secret Revealed, and the cover image is of Escanor and Merlin in the outfits they had in the Holy War arc, which I actually really like, and I always love seeing Escanor in that outfit. I think it's definitely his second best outfit, maybe his best outfit towards the end of the series, because it just encapsulates how badass he is. And I think Nakaba knows that too, because every single time we get flashes of Escanor from the past, he's always in his Holy War outfit. But yeah, really cool, and Merlin once more, really cool outfit as well. And so the chapter starts off directly from where last chapter left off, with Merlin revealing that she has a way to fight back against chaos. And after hearing about this, and if it's actually true, Merlin confirming this, Gowther wants her to tell him how this is possible, and what it is. But Merlin tells Gowther she can't tell him right now, and they have to go to a different location, primarily because Eyes and Ears of Camelot could be anywhere, and this is very vital information. It's that much of a game changer, as Merlin goes on to say, with a very nice piece of imagery of Arthur's tower beginning to crumble away, as she says that it has enough power to deal a fatal blow to the chaos and lay waste to all of Camelot in a single blow. And yeah, that is really interesting if it exists. Before they can continue this bit of, drastic and vital information right now, also since Merlin confirms she can't really say what this is that she has to fight against chaos or the way to beat chaos right now, shows that they are still in Camelot, while everybody else went back to Leona, so okay, I can kind of understand that. But before this piece of information gets, discussed more, Gawain tells them to forget about all that stuff right now, that doesn't matter. Let's get back to the original problem there. As she angrily says, why Escanor and Merlin never said that they were her parents in the first place up until now. Merlin being, Merlin, just says, didn't you not want to hear about this in the first place? As Gawain just says, so who's Kay? He's supposed to be my father, but Escanor explains that he's more of a foster father, with Merlin explaining, as she said, they were both facing certain circumstances, and that's why they entrusted Kay with raising Gawain. As we get a flashback to Merlin holding a baby Gawain, like a newborn Gawain, as she begins to say that his wish was to make up for past mistakes with Arthur, his brother-in-law, and he was the first to really notice any changes in Arthur, and so he asked Merlin for help. And in exchange, Merlin says, could you raise this child for me as your daughter? One day she will be a knight of prophecy who can rescue Arthur. Very key words there, because the prophecy is essentially how they say to save Britannia or to destroy Camelot and chaos in King Arthur. So Merlin saying that she'll be someone that can be a knight of prophecy, which kind of means that the prophecy of the whole Four Knights of the Apocalypse began very early on when these characters were newborns, essentially. And Merlin knows that Gawain is that important, which is insane to think about, and makes me wonder how she knows all this stuff this far in advance. but it could just be Bartra's vision in some way. But yeah, she mentions rescuing Arthur, which is an interesting detail, as we get a glimpse of a young child Gawain playing in the yard with Kay looking after her, as Merlin says that it was wise to leave Kay with Gawain's care, as he, while no natural, ended up becoming a good father to her and raised her with more love than they ever expected. And this shows. Kay, while not her biological father, has been shown, especially after meeting him, to really do care about Gawain and her happiness, and has raised her the best that he possibly could, even though he acknowledges himself he probably wasn't the best father, but he did all he could, and I can appreciate that, and Merlin sees that as well. But Merlin ends up saying that she had to remove herself from this world to protect a certain secret. And she chuckles, saying, "Not that any excuse in the world could cover for my failures as a mother," which obviously kind of gets her a little bit of a reaction from Gawain, as Balin ends up asking about Escanor, her father. And Escanor just kind of, says, "Well, the thing in my case, I'm already dead. Yeah, this body was made by Merlin to kind of be a vessel for my soul. So, yeah, that's kind of what this whole situation is." As Gawain is shocked to see that her father, Escanor, is just dead, despite the fact, he's right in front of them, as she didn't know the full situation, and Escanor just says, "Well, it was my reckless actions that led to me losing my body and dying." But even despite that, he kind of hoped to be of good care to Gawain, to take care of her. But as Merlin looks over to Escanor, she gives the full explanation of how he died. He burnt up his body, dying 18 years ago after defeating the Demon King in the Holy War. He burned up his very life for the sake of the world and his friends. And Merlin actually gives us a bit more of her perspective as Escanor died, as we never really saw most of it, or her inner dialogue about Escanor dying, saying that she watched him burn away in the flames of his own creation, as Nakba redrew this instance from the Seven Deadly Sins manga, as we see the embers of Escanor floating into the sky. And Merlin says that she felt a sense of loss like nothing she had ever experienced, showing that she most likely did have some sort of attachment and feelings towards Escanor, perhaps not romantically, but still seeing him die in front of her and even admitting his feelings to her and all that did really stick to her, which I do very much appreciate. We then see a little bit of an ember go towards Merlin's hand as she grabs it. And she says that she took the bit of flesh that was remaining of Escanor's body and then mixed it with her own, as you see an image of Merlin casting a spell on this piece in a circle surrounded by candles, as Dubs and Gother realize what Merlin did, as she reveals she broke a very strict taboo, as she reveals that Gawain was never basically grew in her womb. She was created through the use of a forbidden spell. And with that, the origin of Gawain is confirmed, and basically magic homunculus ended up being the very likely answer to that. And I do kind of like it. There were many, and I mean many different theories on who Gawain is or her origins and stuff like that. But turns out, one of the remains of Escanor from when he died, plus a bit of Merlin's own flesh, we have no idea what that means, maybe she just used maybe a piece of her or whatever, mixed it together, throw in forbidden magic, and poof, you have a baby Gawain. Now, we don't get any real instance of this, why this is forbidden. I guess mainly so you're not supposed to use magic to create a literal human being, a human life, because I guess this would make Gawain like a crime against nature to a degree. I do hope this gets revealed. There is some sort of real price to be paid for doing this taboo, and I feel like this could have been something that could be tied into the life spirits due to their whole deal into bringing life into this world. And I feel like, well, bringing life of your own accord through magic and mixing different aspects of different people together to make a human being would feel like a slap in the face to maybe the life spirits, for all we know. That's something that could be explored. I don't think so. We'll get into that, because like we already got the answer to Gawain's origins. I don't think that'll be the case. But hey, that is what it is. But we also got confirmed that Escanor's soul is back, just in the vessel, so he's not coming back to fight. He's technically around again, but he is still dead. So at least I don't have to worry about any real thing being any way to make his death pointless, because his death led to Gawain, and his soul is back. He's still technically dead, so once that temporary puppet body is gone, he's gone for good, unless Merlin can bring him back again. But at least he's not here to fight, because if Escanor was back full strength to fight, the Sins wouldn't need the Four Knights of the Apocalypse for the most part, because like all 7 sins would be around more or less peak strength. They'd be able to take on Arthur. No hands tied if Escanor and Merlin are with them. Or, that's how I believe it could be. Also knowing that Merlin is just somewhere around, saying that she has to remove herself from the world, gives us an idea of she is still alive, flesh and blood, and is somewhere else. My guess, another dimension somewhere, which makes a whole lot of sense. Merlin says that they kind of kept it a secret to avoid Gawain going into despair over not technically being a natural-born human, and so she kind of kept it a secret. Balin says he doesn't know what to say to her, but Gawain ends up being, her usual cocky, overconfident self, essentially, just playing it off, saying, "Oh, so I really am that special after all. Always wondered why I wasn't like those other morons. Now look at me, I'm on a whole other level." As she keeps laughing, saying, "So that's what it is? I was made, and that's why I'm not able to love anyone else." As Balin's trying to comfort her, as now we go into one of the big aspects of Gawain's character, of her not really feeling the concept of love in general, essentially, not feeling love towards other people, and her romantic interests in women. Now, Balin tries to say that she is very loved by a great many people, and how can that be true if she doesn't have any love within her? As that is honestly a really nice talking point by Balin, and I like how he has known Gawain the least out of anybody. He's only known her for only like a couple of days, or a week at this point, I would say, after she decimated him in a fight, after learning his trick. And I'm not gonna lie, their dynamic is nice, and I like how he literally acknowledges everything about their group and their bonds, and literally tells Gawain, "Look, as an outsider, I can see people love you. If you didn't have an ounce of love in your heart, nobody would give a damn about you," and that is very true. But here comes the one instance of this chapter that I really don't like, and I'm sure a lot of people probably won't like. Granted, this could be changed later on in a different way, but let's just get into it. Merlin says that the reason why Gawain likes only women is because she placed a curse on Gawain when she was a baby, saying that she did it with loving intentions in mind, as she didn't want Gawain to go through similar pain in falling into a pit of misery thanks to an impossible love, and that's why she thought it'd be best to kind of banish any romantic interest in the opposite sex, as we get an image of Meliodas and Elizabeth looking longingly, as a Merlin, as a child looking off in the distance, is very dejected. So look, I don't think I made this clear before. I don't think I've ever had a chance to talk about it. I never liked the twist of Merlin secretly having feelings for Meliodas and that being her main motivating factor throughout the entirety of Seven Deadly Sins, and to awaken chaos, and that being her gluttonous will for knowledge. And I'm like, it could have been something different. It could have been done differently. I can make an entirely different video ranting on this, or maybe when I eventually get back to this in my reread of Seven Deadly Sins, which I'm still doing, by the way. Sorry, I've just had a lot of stuff going on, and it's been on the back burner for a bit. That's still being done. Don't worry, I should be able to get part 1 recorded by the end of the year, so you should have it by the New Year's, if anything. Anyway, I don't like the fact that Merlin selfishly thought, "Oh, I went through this bullshit when I was younger. I don't want my daughter to go through this when she's young and growing up. So why don't I use a curse to basically remove interest in men in general as she grows up?" And Gawain's obviously kind of like confused by this. That, wait, you put a curse on me? As then Merlin uses curse liberation to remove this curse from Gawain, saying, "I just released the shackles and that she's sorry." With Gother commenting, "That's kind of a thin line between love and a curse, Merlin," which I agree, it's very fucked up. Which, again, it's Merlin, so I kind of expect something twisted justification in her mind, even if she knows it might be wrong. Whatever. So Balin asks her if anything feels off, as she says she doesn't feel any differently until Balin gets up close to her, as Gawain embarrassingly shoves him off to the side, saying he's way too close and he smells all husky and stuff. So, seemingly, it worked. Gawain, seemingly, is no longer gay, I guess. It's either that, or since she grew up her whole life only having, like, romantic feelings for women due to the curse or whatever, maybe now she can have feelings for guys now, and that's a new experience for her to deal with, I guess. At worst, she has just got magicked the gay out of her, essentially, which would be a dumb, very bad decision, and it says some other weird message, if this is Nakaba's whole deal, which I don't think it is. Or, at best from this, she's bi now. I don't have much words to really say. This is a big fumble because, like, this part of Gawain's character has been a key factor in her feeling alienated from other people. Not just no longer feeling love, not having, like, real romantic feelings of love or even familial love to that degree, or even understanding the concept of love, but also not having affections for guys, but only for women, which is something that seems very rare in this universe. The only gay character that is confirmed in Seven Deadly Sins that I still know of is Slater. Whose favorite character is Slater? He's a side character. Granted, the guy has a really nice chiseled jaw when he does not wearing that executioner's iron mask. But still, he's not really a vital character for the most part. Even though he's kind of cool, no one really remembers Slater. Gawain is a title character of the series, a main character, and this could have been something very interesting to really dive into. I made a whole 20-minute video off the top of my head on how this could have a bunch of different implications for Gawain and her development, and how this could have really nice messaging and stuff like that if Nakaba didn't fumble the ball, but I guess he kind of did. Granted, like I said, at best she's bi from this, and she ends up just dealing with that now, dealing with the fact that she likes men and women now, I guess. I don't know. I legitimately don't know. I might be reading way too much into this, obviously, and this most likely isn't the intended thing. Now, while I don't think Nakaba would have made this a key portion of her character just to magic it away, there's a very strong possibility that it's Weekly Shonen Magazine's editorial department, mainly his editor, telling him, okay, you gotta get rid of this now. You have an excuse to kind of do this now that we're getting answers. I highly suggest you kind of get rid of all this right now, etc., etc. Wouldn't be the first time that Nakaba's editors have told him to change and add stuff to the manga that kind of ended up being a detriment. The vast majority of Seven Deadly Sins, his first editor literally made him do all the ecchi and fan service scenes for almost half the manga from what I could tell. And it shows. But we'll have to see where this goes. I have no idea. That's my comment on this. Let me know your thoughts in general down in the comments, I guess. But we still got more of the chapter, so let's move on. Now, after revealing all this and liberating her from the curse, Escanor and Merlin kind of ask, I know it's late, but would you be able to forgive us? Gawain angrily tells them no, but as it seems they might be dejected, Gawain calls them Mom and Dad as she flies over and gives the two of them a massive, heartwarming, and loving hug, as we get a really beautiful page showcasing Gawain hugging her parents, Escanor and Merlin. And it is a very beautiful panel, if I'm being honest with you, with Merlin and Escanor off on the side with like visualization of him in tears is honestly kind of beautiful, and definitely one of the series' most heartwarming moments. Obviously a bit dejected from the reveal literally 2 pages ago, but that's beside the point. But yeah, very beautiful moment with Balin and Gowther smiling on, with Gawain saying that if they want her to forgive them, then they have to hold her as tight as possible until she says it's okay to let go. As Escanor says, how I long to hug you with my real body, with Gawain saying that doesn't matter right now, because you're my dad. You're still mom and dad to me. You're still mom, you're still dad. And that's honestly kind of beautiful, despite everything that's happened and the big shock. Gawain is just still happy, because even then, they still were there from when she was a kid, basically helped raise her, and she does know that they love her, and was there for her every step of the way, and encouraged her since she was young, and helped her over the course of her years. So even though they weren't physically there, they were still her parents. And Gawain just telling them, hug me until I say it's fine. Very nice, very beautiful, especially from someone that now she can openly say how much that she loves them, and that she can feel the love of her parents. And it's very nice. It's very wholesome. And then Gawain ends up asking Merlin, where is she right now? You have a way to fight back against chaos, right? As obviously, we're getting back to everything that happened previously. As we get a visualization of Merlin with a very wholesome smile on her face, saying, if that's what you seek, then come to me. With Gawain asking, what do you mean by that? With Merlin saying, the key is inside of Gawain, as she grabs her by the cheek, looking at her. But she then gets a bit of a twitch, as Merlin says, I'm sorry, but I have to enter auto mode for a while, as her hand goes away from Gawain's face, with Gawain wondering what's going on, as we get a visualization of Merlin's hand reaching away from her crystal ball, her sacred treasure. As we get the puppet that Merlin was controlling saying that they are about to commence the ship and commence cleaning, essentially. So this obviously 100% confirms that the puppet that we have been seeing Merlin talk through is an automated machine that she's been talking through her the sacred treasure from a separate location. So basically almost every theory about, you know, why Escanor and Merlin are the way they are has been more or less confirmed, at least the more obvious ones, and Gawain's origin. But still, very nice to get that full explanation. But Merlin gets up from her chair, walking away from her sacred treasure, as she says, "I'll be waiting, Gawain." As we get to see an image of Gawain once more, with Merlin walking off to someone missing a right arm and long hair sitting up in a bed. As Merlin says, "You're finally awake," as they just say hi to Merlin. Now we get more closer looks at this person's face as he asks how long he has been asleep, with Merlin revealing around 2 years. Strangely enough, that's been the time skip on how long Percival has been away, as Merlin says that he's lost quite a bit of his strength. And he asks, how's the fight going, with Merlin saying, not looking too great right now, as he looks a bit dejected, with Merlin saying, but don't worry, there's still hope. Percival is back, and the other three are more powerful than ever before. With them on our side, we can do it. As on the final page of the chapter, we get the reveal of who this man is, with Merlin saying, we can regain Britannia, and you as well, Arthur Pendragon, my one and only master. As we get the reveal of another Arthur, looking significantly older, most likely obviously in his early to mid-30s, and very skinny and malnourished, as the chapter ends. What does this mean? Well, outside of everything with Gawain and her origins, and now they have to go find Merlin and now see this Arthur, it seems my video on like cat manipulating Arthur might be half wrong or mostly wrong, but it seems that perhaps Arthur, similar to what happened to Meliodas when he regained his demon powers and lost his emotions, most likely separated himself, his human side, with the power of chaos. As we see, he's still missing his arm, he's very disheveled, and he is physically older. And Arthur started changing 18 years ago. So definitely between Arthur awakening to chaos and the creation of Camelot, there is a lot to really consider how Arthur has changed. And so it seems that he might have split into two people individually. One that's running Camelot, with the power of chaos being, well, the main source of power, and growing each and every day, swallowing Britannia, and creating chaos beasts and chaos-powered knights, and basically wanting to erase all but humans, essentially, and creating this false kingdom. Meanwhile, Merlin disappeared after giving Gawain to Kay, with seemingly what might be the human half of Arthur, somewhere else to keep him safe from potentially his chaos side completely enveloping him 100%, and thus he is off and he has grown weaker and weaker, and this is the key to defeating chaos. If we have the Four Knights of the Apocalypse and their group, plus Arthur and the Seven Deadly Sins, we might be able to take down Camelot. There's a lot to really consider here, and the video is already long enough as it is, so this is going to be an entirely separate video, most likely within the next 2 weeks before we get more on this information, because I feel like we're leaving off with a cliffhanger, and we're probably not going to get direct answers till a couple weeks down the line, at least till the end of the next arc, the earliest. But this is like the biggest reveal we have seen in the series thus far. We all thought that Arthur was the main antagonist, but it seems that it's not quite as simple. And I am so excited and so curious as to what is going to happen going forward with this series, because this doesn't seem even halfway done, potentially. We might have a lot more going on in the future, and I'm very, very excited to see how the group is going to react to Merlin harboring a different side of Arthur. And yeah, that's how, there's a lot to really dive into that, and that's seemingly where the story is going to go to next, with the quest to find Merlin, and by extension, Arthur, the real Arthur. But leave your thoughts, opinions, and theories in the comment section down below on this reveal and this chapter as a whole, in the comment section down below. And once more, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, shows you guys know the content I make here on the channel, and shows you want to see more. And with all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day. Despite how good this chapter is, I really do think that one aspect of Gawain's character being altered the way it did really is a bit of a fumble and kind of a very bad writing decision, but that could just be me.